Okay, here we are at Bay Harbor Marina. It's a Sunday morning. I think it's April, what are we up to, 16, 17, something like that, maybe April 17th. The marina is really quiet, right? It's actually noon. It's not really morning. There's not much activity. There aren't too many boats in. There are a few. It's been cool this spring, cold actually, and the weather's been pretty lousy all the way along. So there's not much activity. Here's the buildings. And if I keep rotating around past the red truck, I get into the building with Baker's Dozen where I'm working. Here we are. We're varnishing. I have to do the tow rail. I had to repair some varnish on the tow rail because moisture had lifted it off in a couple sections after I had redone the whole thing last year with umpteen coats, and it was all pretty and perfect. But then again, had some moisture leakage from our heavy rains. They lifted off some of the varnish on the tow rail, so I had to strip those parts and start over again. And the tow rail is sanded here, and I will be putting the first coat of varnish on the whole thing today. The mast here is revarnished. This was a year for it. It needed it. Last fall I touched up the bad spots and put several coats of varnish over and sanded down, kind of faired it out, and so the mast was ready to go. I sanded the whole thing down this spring and I put 2 coats of varnish on, and yesterday I added first coat of white paint on the top of the spreaders. The top of the spreaders is where you can't see them from below, and the white paint is more durable than varnish, as I learned late. But we got the first coat of varnish on and it looked really good, and I put the second coat of varnish on, and about a third of the way through, wind came up and it was blowing the dust and the leaves around in the building here, and it's a great mess. So my varnish this year has a bit of a non-skid texture to it, and it's something we're going to live with. There are certain things you can't very well control for. Next year maybe I'll do a sanding job and do 1 coat of varnish. I normally do 2 coats every 2 years. And today I'll have to re-rig. I've got my halyards up here rolled up and coiled on the ground. And there we are. Today's chore again is varnishing those tow rails, and we'll make things look better.
I forgot to show the sails. These are my newish The insignia is for Seafarer yachts. It's supposed to represent the sail and its reflection on the water.
Here is the Saginaw River rear range light. It's also, we call it our lighthouse, but technically it's a rear range light. Ranges are any 2 set of marks that you line up to show when you're in a channel or on the right course. And Saginaw River is one of the first places to have lighted ranges, and this is the rear range light. There's another one up forward of it, and when you are coming in the channel here, if they're lined up, you're in the middle of the channel, and it's a good way to guide vessels in and out. Then over here on the east side of the river, we have the Dan Carn electric generating plant. The yellow part is newer, the gray part is older and coal-fired. And up here, for those of you who are from Bay City or know it, there's a blank spot where the Weddock plant used to be. The Consumers Power Company had its first generating station right here, the Weddock plant. It had 6 very old units built in the 40s, and then 2 more bigger units built in the 50s. And the last 2, the units 7 and 8, were what they call base load plants, and they ran 24 hours a day, every day of the week. They just ran all the time because they were cheap to run. But they closed them down a few years ago, and they've torn the whole thing down now. Switching over gradually to other sources of power, not coal generated. And the big gray coal plant over here is scheduled to be taken out of service in about 6 years, I think. And we'll be using a lot more solar and wind. On the way into the marina, I passed the storage yard for the windmill blades that they're importing to run the big wind turbines. Here's the mouth of the river up here, and over on the west side of the mouth of the river is the Bay City Yacht Club, and pretty soon I'll be out in the bay and get my jib up. Okay, here we are under full sail. I have the jib up, and we're sailing along at what for sailboats is a high rate of speed. It's measuring about 6 knots. We're on the main reach with the wind right over the side. That's one of the fastest ways to go in a boat like this, and we're doing it. Got a pretty good breeze out here in the southwest, and you may not be hearing any of this because all the wind noise, but over here we have the island, that's Red Spoils Island, and the schooner, let's see if I can zoom in, the schooner Appledore is sailing in back there. Around here we have steering very well. I'm making movies here. Stand up and show you the boat. Here's the boat, all varnished and pretty. Looking good. Relatively new sails. I don't know if I showed the flag here. We're flying the yacht ensign, which I always fly. Dad bought that first thing when we got the boat. He wanted to have an ensign, and so there it is. And I always fly it when I'm sailing. Let's do a selfie here. I don't know if this is going to work. Here we are, selfie on the video. I had to interrupt things. I found I had a line dragging in the water. I was dragging one of my jib sheets, the lines that controls the jib, and one of the greatest sins for a sailor is dragging lines overboard. They can get caught in propellers or whatever. It's just really sloppy seamanship, so we took care of that, and now we're sailing along very nicely. It's probably in the 70s right now, maybe even upper 70s, but it's windy, so breezy, so it feels good out here. Here we are in front of the cottages. That little white house under the great big tree is my little cottage. Big little cottonwood tree, and then over to the left we have a new house being built. And then we go to the right a little bit, farther to the north. We have my mom's house, and that's where the flag is flying. I put the flag out today. And then the red roof belongs to the Grosses. And so this is the shoreline. I've sailed in here, and I've got to turn my boat right now. Okay, here we are. I'm headed back. I turned the boat around. It's called Coming About. Brought the bow across the wind. Turned around, and the power plants are up here. And the wind is not on the nose. You can't sail a sailboat directly into the wind. You can go about 45 degrees more or less, depending upon the boat. So the wind is kind of off to my right at about a 45-degree angle here. And we're sailing back, and the wind is dropping a little bit, and it's a lovely evening. It's just right in terms of temperature for a t-shirt. Not too hot, not too cold. And the boat's moving along very nicely, and we're about to turn over 7,600 miles on the old odometer, which under reads, but still, that's good long distance.